Hey folks, and welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. With 23 games having been played by everybody now, I just wanted to have a look at the table, look at the teams individually, and discuss the current relegation battle. We'll kind of decipher throughout the video as to who is definitely in this relegation battle, who could be dragged into it, and where that cut-off probably ends. Just looking at it from the very start here, I would say that the top 11 are safe-ish. The top 3, just purely because of points, the top 3 are definitely safe, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're all over 40. Manura probably going to get it, Chelsea's probably going to get it, Liverpool's probably going to get it, Fulham should, Brentford, Newcastle and Everton and Sunderland probably should. So if I'm being totally honest, just before we get into the detail, I think it's Brighton downwards, but again, about half of these probably ain't going to be in it later, in about 10 games time. And form can change. Giving my club Leeds as an example, we've only lost one game in the last 10. Yes, there's a lot of draws in there, but we're proving to be difficult to beat for the most part. And the one loss was that crazy Newcastle game where we had taken the lead 3 times in the match. Should have taken at least a point out of that. And anyway, so I'll try and keep each segment as brief as I can because we've got a lot of teams to get through here. So Wolves, currently bottom, 1 win, 5 draws, 17 losses, only scored 15 all season. That's dreadful. That's relegation form, just purely because they're not scoring enough goals. 43 conceded is not great either. Minus 28 overall is a ridiculously bad goal difference. Only 8 points on the board. The only thing going in favour for Wolves at the moment is that their form has picked up a little bit, with draws against Manua, Everton and Newcastle, and a very important win against a team that's obviously in this relegation battle, being West Ham. The loss was a 2-0 loss to Man City, which there's no disgrace in that, and the next opponent's Bournemouth, who again aren't in amazing form this season. So you could look at that and think, all right, maybe Bournemouth's another team that maybe they could take a point off. From Wolves' point of view, they can't just be taking 1 point. They need to be getting some 3-point wins on the board. If we look at their fixtures, so I'll just go on the current page for each team. They wallop Shrewsbury, but that's a cup match against a very low level team as things stand. The draw against Newcastle's very decent, from an overall perspective. And as I said, losing 2-0 at Man City is no disgrace. They've got Bournemouth coming up. They need to be, at Molineux, they need to be looking at that as a match that they can get something from. I think it'll be difficult for them to get anything against Chelsea. Away at Forest, that's another one that they need to be looking at as a game that they can get something from. The cup match against Grimsby, they probably don't want, in theory. They are away at Crystal Palace, another team that aren't in great form. They could maybe see something out of that one. And then at home against Villa is going to be very difficult. Villa's having a very good season. And at home to Liverpool again, they're still a top quarter team. So again, they'll probably struggle there. So it's a bit of a mixed bag in a way. There's a couple of fixtures in there that Wolves might think they can get something from. But I think ultimately they're doomed. The first half of the season was just too bad. It was way too bad for them, and ultimately, this is the issue that they find themselves in. So, I think Wolves are going down. They would have to go on an amazing run of wins and draws, and hope that the 2 teams above them, who already have a lot of points over them, don't pick up wins and they overhaul them. The gap's just too big. It's too big. Moving on to Burnley. 3 wins, 6 draws, 14 losses, 25 scored, 44 conceded. That's even worse than Wolves. Minus 19 overall with 15 points on the board, so quite a bit more than Wolves. But, you know, you look at the gaps above, 5 points behind West Ham, 10 points behind Forest. It's still pretty bad. So, their form, no wins in the last 5, which is pretty poor. Losses against Newcastle and Brighton, but a decent draw against Man U, decent draw against Liverpool, and a decent draw against Tottenham. You know, they're capable of nicking the odd point off teams that are, you know, have a bigger stature than Burnley. But, you know, again, similar to Wolves, draws alone ain't gonna be enough. So, if we have a look at Burnley individually, so Burnley wallop Millwall, but again it's cup. Again, Burnley probably don't really want the cup right now. And those 2 draws are decent. They're away at Sunderland. They might see that as one that they can maybe get something from. And this one's big. That's big for both those teams. Burnley and West Ham, both in the relegation zone right now. A draw in that match is terrible for both of them. Both of those teams are going to have to be looking to win it. A draw isn't enough in that fixture for either team. Burnley will probably also look at that Crystal Palace match, and they'll probably think, you know, that's something that maybe they can get something from. Mansfield in the cup. Again, they don't really need the cup right now, to be honest. Away at Chelsea, very difficult. At home against Brentford. Brentford's having a season that they probably never thought they were going to have. But that'll be quite difficult for Burnley. And then away at Everton, I mean, we've just played, you know, Leeds have just played away at Everton and came away with a draw. So, I don't know, they might see that as an outside bet, as something they can get a point from maybe. So, you know, for Burnley, you know, I can't see a way out of it for them either. The points gap is just too damn big. You know, that's even to get to safety. You know, to get to 17th, a 10-point gap and a worse goal difference. I honestly think at this stage, I think the bottom 2 will both go down. I don't see a way out for Wolves or Burnley, unless a dramatic change in form occurs. West Ham, they've currently got half of what's probably required to stay up, but it's taken them longer than half the season. So that's not, you know, that's not a great indictment, is it really? So they've got the 5 wins, the 5 draws, 13 losses, scored 27, so they've scored slightly more than Burnley, conceded slightly more than Burnley, so an even worse goals against. That's dreadful, isn't it? 45 goals conceded in 23 games. It's not good at all. Minus 18 with 20 points on the board, though that's the crucial part compared to these 2. They've got a little bit more points on the board there. A draw against Brighton, a bad loss against Wolves, really. That's a bad loss as well against Forest. They're losing against teams around them. That is not a sign of a team that's got much of a chance of staying up. But then they did pick things up a bit. They beat Tottenham and they beat Sunderland. It's so hard to tell, isn't it? But if we look at West Ham's fixtures that are coming up, beat QPR in the Cup, beat Tottenham, beat Sunderland. So they've got Chelsea next, another London derby. And then, as I said, that one between those 2 is massive. You know, from those 2 clubs' points of view. From Leeds' point of view, I think that needs to be a draw. Keep them both down there, and then it won't matter for Forest, Leeds and everyone else. They'll all be hoping these two draw, because it's another match ticked off, and it's a match where both of them have dropped points, rather than a point gained on either side. At home to Manure, and they've got Burton away in the cup. Again, West Ham don't really need the cup. I mean, none of these teams that we're talking about really need a cup run right now, do they? If truth be told. At home to Bournemouth, again, they will see that as a game that they really need to pick up some points. Away at Liverpool, that'd be difficult. And the way that Fulham's going this season, I mean, Leeds beat Fulham recently, but Fulham's having a good season for their standards, so that won't be easy. So again, another team with a bit of a mixed running over these next few games. West Ham definitely have more chance of staying up than the bottom two. I don't, and especially with two recent wins, just gets the confidence up a little bit. West Ham are on the cusp. It's still very difficult for them. It's basically a 6-point swing between them and Forest. So, that's difficult. But their recent form of with those two wins really does make a big difference. If those two matches there had been anything less than a win, then they're closer to Burnley at that point. And, and then you could probably say at that point that maybe the current bottom three will definitely be the bottom three come the end of the season. Unless a dramatic turn of form happens. Moving on to Forest. 7 wins, 4 draws. They don't draw much. 12 losses, 23 scored. They don't score a lot. That's pretty average to say the least, isn't it? Conceded 34 though. First team to be a bit tighter defensively than the other 3 below them. Minus 11, so the goal difference is still better in Forest's favour compared to the bottom 3. And then, as I say, those extra 5 points on the board, it's more than the equivalent of one match swing, isn't it? So it's useful. Bit of mixed form. They lost 2-0 to Everton and 3-1 to Villa. But they beat West Ham, which is useful from Forest's point of view. Got a really creditable draw against Arsenal. I mean, that's not bad going at all, is it? With Arsenal being top of the league, and then Forest beat Brentford, who are also having a decent season, currently in 8th. But as you can see with Brentford, they either win or they lose. They've only drawn 3 all season. That's crazy. So let's have a look at Forest then. What have they got coming up? So as I said, the draw against Arsenal, very good. Forest is still in Europe. I don't think Forest want Europe right now. They've got to be focusing on the league. If they're, the one place above the relegation zone. I don't think they want Europe. I mean, imagine if they went on to win the Europa League and then maybe get relegated. God, that'd be the weirdest season ever. But as things stand, they got that away win against Brentford. Very useful. But they've got a match coming up against Ferencváros, which I just don't think the Forest squad's big enough or strong enough to cope with the Europa League as well as the Premier League. They're away at... hold on a minute. No, they're at home against Palace. That's a big one. Again, Palace not in good form right now. Away at Leeds. Leeds have to win that. That is a must-win for Leeds because I think Leeds have got some stinker fixtures coming up. So that one is major from a Leeds point of view. And Forest will see it as major too because Leeds are obviously one place above Forest right now. Then they play Wolves. I mean, that's huge. Again, Wolves will see that one as one that maybe they can try and take some points off. But Forest are going to see that as one that they have to win. At home at Liverpool, that'll be a tough one. Away at Brighton won't be a walk in the park, and then away at Man City as well. Ouch. So there's a they're not playing many that are in the middle there, are they? They're either playing teams near the top or near the bottom. So again, a bit of a mixed bag. Onto my team, Leeds now. I know for a fact we've got some stinkers coming up. I'll just go through what Leeds have got in the table in a moment. I just want to go straight to the fixtures here because we got a solid victory against Derby in the cup. Good win against Fulham. Fulham are having a decent season. That is a decent win. And the draw away at Everton, not to be sniffed at. But just look at this run in that we've got now. At home against Arsenal. The only solace of that is that we're at home. This one we have to win. As I mentioned a moment ago, we have to beat Forest. We're at home. It's against a team that's near us. Have to beat them. Away at Chelsea. Ugh, not a fixture we really want right now. Same as being at home against Arsenal. We don't really want or need those two fixtures really. Away to Birmingham's, in the cup match again. Leeds don't need cup matches. The possibility of picking up injuries in the cup is it's massive. So for me, with that Birmingham match, I'll be playing all the players that aren't currently playing in the main 11. Give them a rest and play some of the backups, or at least some of the players that aren't currently in favour. You're looking at players like Lucas Perry, who's just lost his place to Caldalo in the number 1 jersey. So Perry will have to play. Originally you'd think James Justin would play, but he's currently playing because Gary Gudmundsson's injured. And Jakobiel's injured. So he's been playing pretty much all over the place as Justin at the minute. He's playing well. I've got to give James Justin some credit. He's having a good little time of it right now. Long may it continue. So from a Leeds perspective, Metch has got to start because Metch has done well when he's played. But I don't want Metch playing out wide. He's so much better in the middle, or playing up front with the in the front two, and then you've got some of the midfielders. Again, quite a lot of our midfield are getting games at the moment. So anyway, moving on from that, I say we don't really want the cup game. Villa, that'll be difficult. It's really weird with Villa. They've let Malin go, which I find very odd. So I thought that when Leeds played against Villa at Ellen Road, I thought Marlon looked like one of their best players, to be honest. So that's really weird. So that's going to be hard because Villa are near the top. And then Man City, nobody ever wants to play against Man City, really, do they? Not with that squad depth. Again, a bit like the Arsenal game, at least it's at home. And then we're at home against Sunderland. Really need to win that one, to be honest. That is a horrendous tough run. Man City, Villa, Chelsea and Arsenal. Ugh, no. Because when you look at the table, because I didn't touch on what Leeds have got in the tables right now. So for Leeds, they've got 6 wins, 8 draws, 9 losses, 31 goals scored, 38 conceded, -7 goal difference, 26 points on the board, with the form being draw, loss, win, draw. That loss is 1 loss in 10 games. The win, as I said, is against Fulham. That loss was that crazy game against Newcastle. Took the lead 3 times. We should have taken at least a point out of that one. And then, as I say, we've been on a fair chunk of draws recently. From a points perspective, 26 points on the board. It's 6 ahead of the relegation zone. 7 if you include that better goal difference. And, it is considerably better, than the bottom 3 by a mile. And we have got that nice little buffer of having Forest keeping us away from that relegation zone as well. So as things stand at the moment, it's looking alright for Leeds, but I don't want to go too much on Leeds because I do talk a lot about Leeds. So moving on to Palace. Palace are in bad form at the moment. No win in the last 5. They've won 7, drawn 7, lost 9, scored 24. They're not scoring a lot. Only conceded 28 though, so they're not conceding a drastic amount. -4, 28 points on the board, with a draw, a draw against Fulham, a loss against Newcastle, a draw against Villa, a loss against Sunderland, and a loss against Chelsea. Bearing in mind that Palace lost against Leeds quite heavily as well, 4-1 earlier in the season. So, let's delve into Palace's fixtures. It's not looking great for them right now. Glasner's just so deflated from when they lost against Macclesfield. He's a shell of his former self, is Glasner, the manager. Not helped by the fact that he's lost a couple more of his best players. And when you lose your best players, it's hard, there's no doubt about it. But it's 3 losses on the bounce in all competitions there. That's massive. Again, against Forest, they need to be beating Forest if they're going to keep themselves away from the relegation zone. I think the match against Brighton, that's a bit of a derby, isn't it? I think the class Brighton Palace is a little bit of a location derby. At home against Burnley, that again could be crucial to keeping Palace away from the relegation zone. They've got a Conference League match away as well, which surely that's not ideal for them. At home against Wolves, crucial. Excuse me, sorry. Then they got the reverse fixture against Zrinjski Mostar. I would love to know where they're from. That's a great name, isn't it? And then away to Manure. Right. So it's actually it's a reasonable run of fixtures for Palace right now. But they've got to turn the form around because the form's terrible. But that's one of the lighter schedule of fixtures. Well, in terms of the opposition, at least from a Premier League point of view, it's a slightly gentler running than it's gentler than Leeds have got in upcoming matches. That's for sure. Tottenham Hotspur, same record as Palace, 7-7-9. They've scored more than Palace, but they've conceded more than Palace. But ironically, they've got a positive goal difference of +2. Same number of points, but like Palace, haven't won in the last 5. With draws, they drew a blank against Brentford, 1-1 with Sunderland, narrowly lost 3-2 to Bournemouth, lost 2-1 to West Ham. It's not a good one, is it? And then drawing 2-2 with Burnley. So Tottenham aren't good against teams near the bottom, are they? Not really, not in recent times. So let's see who Tottenham have coming up. So, they've got a Champions League match against Frankfurt, away from home. They're at home against Man City, ouch. Away at Manure. At home against Newcastle, that's not going to be easy. At home against Arsenal, a London derby. Away at Fulham, another London derby. At home to Palace, another London derby against a team that's near them. Oh. Ow. Talk about a punch in the whatsits. That is a nasty, nasty run of games. If I was a Tottenham fan right now, I'd be dreading it. Tottenham could find themselves in a really dodgy position, especially if they don't get rid of Thomas Frank. I mean, there's only like 3 or 4 more days of the transfer window. If once the transfer window closes and they've still got Frank in charge, if they then sack Frank because of the form not being so good, well, that Look at that, they got a win against Dortmund. You know, that's one of the best teams in Germany. And yet, you know, and yet they lose against London rivals West Ham, who were in the relegation zone. Wow. I mean, that's such a mixed season, isn't it? But obviously it's not, you know, it's not very good because we're talking about Tottenham being in a relegation battle. They're not safe. Tottenham aren't safe. That next run of games looks horrible, absolutely horrible. Who's next? Bournemouth. So Bournemouth have got 7 wins, 9 draws, 7 losses, 38 scored, 43 conceded, minus 5 goal difference, 30 points on the board. With 1 draw, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 win. So the recent form's picked up a bit. 2-2 draw with Chelsea, no shame in that. Only narrowly lost to Arsenal, who were top of the league, 3-2. Got a 3-2 victory against Spurs. Got a 1-1 draw with Brighton, and have just beaten Liverpool 3-2. So I got a bit of revenge for week 1. I think week 1 was Liverpool versus Bournemouth, and that was a bit of a crazy game as well. There was a lot of goals scored in that one as well. And the next opponent's Wolves. Ooh, look at that. I mean, it's such a strange season for Bournemouth, that, isn't it, really? Let's have a look at what they've got coming up. Right, so that obviously eases Bournemouth's fears quite somewhat, you know, because before the match they probably wouldn't have thought they would, you know, they probably possibly thought the best result could be a draw, and they've ended up nicking a win. But next, they've got Wolves, they have to win that, even though it's away. They're at home to Villa, that'll be difficult. Villa's near the top. Away at Everton still haven't adapted to that new stadium yet, as Leeds proved today. Away at West Ham, relegation zone, they need to be winning that. At home to Sunderland, they had a good first half of the season, but going into the second half of the season, Sunderland's form has dropped like a stone. So they should be looking to at least draw that, I would think, as a minimum. Brentford, again, good first half of the season, but again have dropped a little bit. So they might see that as a drawable game, and then a match against Burnley. Even though it's at Turf Moor, I guess it's the Eddie Howe derby, that one, isn't it? Even though he's at Newcastle now, he's Eddie Howe, but he's managed both of these before now. So it's not a bad run of games for Bournemouth, is it? You know, overall, you got to say there's you know, Bournemouth could pull away from trouble with that run of fixtures there, I think. Who's next? Brighton. And this is probably the last team I'm going to review here, because I really don't think that, you know, you've got 4 teams then all on 33 points. That's crazy. And then 34, 36, 37. It's still very close. It's still really close. I mean, going up to 38 points. Going up to 36 points. You know, which is 10 points more than Leeds. Leeds are in 16th. 36, that's Liverpool in 6th. Wow. So, you know, it's 10 points, 10 places. That's crazy. Anyway, yeah, so Brighton's going to be the final team that I'm going to look at the league first. We'll check out the fixtures then. Screw it, let's go. So, Brighton and Hove Albion, what they're doing. So their next fixtures are at home to Everton, but Everton have been playing better away than they have at home this season, so that won't be easy. At home to Palace, they really should be looking at that one as one that they, you know, again, it's a team that's kind of in and around them, and Palace aren't in good form. And as I mentioned before, I think they'd see that as a bit of a derby. Away at Villa, that'll be tough. As I say, Villa are top 3 at the minute. Away at Liverpool, again, that's a cup game though, so that's a bit of a different perspective. Away at Brentford, again, Brentford are currently top half. That's not going to be easy. At home to Forest, they've got to be looking at winning that. And then away at Arsenal, at home at Arsenal. Sorry, what am I saying? They're at home at Forest, and at home against Arsenal. Very difficult with the way Arsenal are this season. So in terms of the table for Brighton, they are on 7 wins, 9 draws. Oh, it's same as Bournemouth. They've scored less than Bournemouth and conceded a lot less than Bournemouth, with a +2 goal difference and 30 points on the board. So there we have it, folks. So in essence, with all of this, as I say, I think the top 11. I don't think any of them are going to get dragged into a relegation battle. There's an outside chance that maybe Brighton, Bournemouth, Tottenham, or Crystal Palace could be dragged into it, because as I say, Leeds' form, albeit there's not a lot of wins in there, they're not losing games. Palace are losing games. Tottenham are losing and drawing. They're not winning. So the way I look at it, really, it's I think it. I mean, if I'm honest, it probably is between. Realistically, it probably is between. Leeds, Forest, and West Ham for that third relegation place. But again, if the likes of Palace and Tottenham don't improve their form, there's no reason, because Leeds are only 2 points off them. I would like to extend it to Tottenham and say that from 14th down, all vying to avoid 18th, because I really do think that Burnley and Wolves are probably down. Wolves definitely, even though they're on an upturn of form, it's just too little too late. The first half of the season for Wolves was just way too bad. They were on track for being the record worst team ever in Premier League history. I don't think they will be that now. I think they probably will get above what Derby got all them years ago. But Burnley aren't in great shakes either. And West Ham, albeit they've won the last 2 games, they're playing so much catch up. And as I say, Leeds aren't losing games at the moment, bar that one. That was a crazy loss against Newcastle. So Leeds are constantly ticking points over. Forest, Forest's form ain't that bad, is it? 2 wins and a draw in the last 3. So, yeah, there we have it, folks. So, let me know your thoughts. Do you think the bottom 3 stay as the bottom 3 by the end of the season? Do you think there's any signs that any of the bottom 3 can get out of this problem? Do you think that Forest might get dragged into it? Do you think Leeds' run starts messing up and they get dragged into it? I hope not. And are Crystal Palace and Tottenham Hotspur out of it yet? 40 points. Is that the total that's going to keep teams up? I think it probably will. When you look at it, I think that 40 points will keep you up. But then there's so many on. Look at it all: 30, 30, 33, 33, 33, 33. It's so close, that, isn't it? And that's going into the top half of the division. So teams like Tottenham and Palace and Leeds and Forest, they'll all be looking up and thinking we can catch those teams that are up in and around the mid-table, I reckon. But I think it's still looking pretty glum for the bottom 3. I think the bottom 2 are down, regardless of what they do. Because as I say, West Ham's just started to pick up a little bit of form and have dragged themselves away from Burnley at least. But they're still a chunk of points away from Forest. So there you have it, folks. I'm going to leave it at that. Do please like the video. Do please hype it as well if you can. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've just hit 200 subs, which I'm really pleased about. Let's see if we can grow this channel and get those subs rolling in. But yeah, put your thoughts down below. Do you think it's a foregone conclusion? Do you think the bottom 3 will be the bottom 3 at the end of the season? Or do you think that some of these just above could get dragged into it? Let me know your thoughts, folks. In the meantime, have a great night. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.